because of our own personalities, own characteristics, own approach of life, that we sometimes spoil the way Jupiter should be able to give us good results, and on the contrary, Jupiter becomes one of the most destructive planets in our horoscopes. Hello, Namaskar and Adab to all my friends from your friend astrologer and guide Irfan, once more with you from your very own channel Astro Assurance. Do you sometimes feel lost? Do you sometimes feel dejected? Do you sometimes feel less motivated, less optimistic, and sometimes you don't know where you're heading? Nothing seems to be happening which is good, nothing which you thought to be promising has come about. Maybe one of the main causes could be that your Jupiter may be spoiling your game. Jupiter may be upsetting your apple cart. Jupiter may be the one who is spoiling those auspicious events or promising events which you thought you may come by. But why is it that sometimes the most benefic of planets, Jupiter, does not give you the results which it seems to be promising in your horoscope? Sometimes a Jupiter may be very well placed, but it still doesn't seem to be giving us good results, and sometimes it is not so well placed and it gives tough results. So let's go through quickly some of the challenging placements that Jupiter gives, because of which we may face some issues and problems, but how we should also be able to address them, and some good placements of Jupiter, but because of our own personalities, own characteristics, own approach of life, that we sometimes spoil the way Jupiter should be able to give us good results, and on the contrary, Jupiter becomes one of the most destructive planets in our horoscopes. So for example, if Jupiter is combusted as well as the nakshatra lord, combusted Jupiter usually transfers its ability to give good results to the Sun, because Sun is what is combusting Jupiter. Sun takes over the role of Jupiter and then gives results of Jupiter if in its dasha and antardasha as well. So if Sun itself is not well placed, then it's surely a problem. For example, Sun and Jupiter, both of them in the Libra sign. Jupiter is so close to the Sun that Sun is combusting Jupiter, but Sun itself is debilitated. Then what results can you expect from such a combusted Jupiter? And if this combustion happens in the Dusthanas, even more tough placements. Sometimes the Jupiter may be combusted even in the Cancer sign, or even in a more auspicious or better friendly sign such as in Aries or in Leo, or sometimes even its own Mool Trikona sign of Sagittarius. Then Jupiter's auspiciousness is lost. In fact, you get tough results. Secondly, if Jupiter is debilitated as well as the Lagna Lord, a debilitated Jupiter while being the Lagna Lord. So the Lagna Lord is the most important entity in your horoscope. What would happen if the Lagna Lord itself is debilitated and Jupiter, the most benefic of planets, is debilitated? Then Jupiter is in a bad dosha, especially if it gets into a Dusthana. For example, Jupiter with Rahu or Guru Chandal dosha, or Jupiter with Ketu, or Jupiter in a Shrapit dosha, as well as a Guru Chandal dosha with Rahu and Saturn. Jupiter makes a Guru Chandal dosha with Rahu, and Rahu makes a Shrapit dosha with Saturn. So if all three come together, God forbid, even in the kendras or in the trine houses, then life can become very difficult. Then Jupiter in a Gajkesari yoga with Moon, but also in a Vish dosha with Saturn, which means Saturn, Moon and Jupiter, all three. So yeah, the Vish dosha with Saturn makes with Moon overshadows the Gajkesari yoga with Jupiter and Moon make together. So yeah, it can give you some of the toughest results, and Saturn may overshadow the ability of both Jupiter and Moon to be able to give you good results. This is one of the most tough doshas, the Vish doshas in your horoscope. If you have a Vish dosha, then you need to be very, very careful how you are able to act, react, think, how you take decision making. The worst thing which can happen to you if you have a Vish dosha is your decision making is all convoluted. Sometimes you end up making more emotional choices, little realizing that these may be not be helping you, not be supporting you in the long run. Then if Jupiter gets with Mars in Scorpio, that too in a Dusthana, whether it's in the 6th house or in the 8th house or in the Lagna, Jupiter can give you tough results with Mars, because in the Dusthanas, except the 6th house where Mars is strong, to some extent in the 8th house where Mars is very strong. However, Mars and Jupiter in the Scorpio sign, for example, in the 12th house, or even in the Virgo sign, or in Gemini sign, even in the Libra sign, the sign of relationships, can give you tough results. Or Jupiter, for example, gets in the Upachaya houses, for example in the 3rd house, and for example it gets in the 3rd house and is placed with Venus in the Virgo sign where Venus is debilitated. So Jupiter is not in a position to help Venus in any way, because Jupiter is inimical to Venus and Venus is debilitated, that too in the 3rd house of your effort, self-enterprise, your ability to be able to communicate. So here Venus, because of its materialistic tendencies, will spoil the ability of Jupiter to be able to communicate with more wisdom. Then if it's exalted but retrograde Jupiter, in various shlokas it has been said, an exalted but retrograde planet gives the results of a debilitated planet. So Jupiter, which is exalted but retrograde, can give you some of the most challenging results. It almost gives you rogue results, which means what you expect, completely diametrically opposite results you may get. Then a debilitated Jupiter with Moon, Jupiter in the sign of Capricorn and with Moon. Moon also loses a lot of its strength in the Capricorn sign, because Capricorn sign is the opposite sign to Moon's Trikona sign of Cancer. Moon is strongest in Cancer, so when it goes into Capricorn, it loses a lot of its strength. So if Jupiter is in Capricorn, debilitated, even if it's in a Gachkesari Yoga, it can still give you challenging results. Or if Jupiter gets in the Gachkesari Yoga with Moon, but either in the Scorpio sign or in the Capricorn sign or even in the Virgo sign, so these can be some very challenging results that this placement can give you. Let me give you some examples from my own practical consultation that I have done to some people with some tough placements. It is the Aries ascendant for a person, and he approaches me, he shows me his horoscope. Jupiter is in the 9th house, but his Venus is in the 8th house in Scorpio, and both with Rahu as well as with Mars. We know that Mars severely afflicts Venus. Venus is in the 8th house in the Scorpio sign, and on top of that Rahu is also placed with it. So here this person, he likes a girl, he approaches his father, who's a very well-known man in the town, and this person has an exalted sun in the Lagna. It is the Aries Lagna. So the person approaches his father and tells his father that I want to marry this girl, and his father says, see, this girl is not very reputed, she doesn't come from a reputed family, there is a lot of noise going around, or there is a lot of whisper or gossip going on. They lived in a small town, so almost everybody knew each other, that this girl may not be of the best personality, best character, and there are a lot of stories about her, so I would advise you not to go with this girl. This person, this guy, he can't say anything to his father then, and then a week later this guy elopes with the girl, he runs away from home, and he comes back after 2 months, almost 2 months, tells his father, I made a mistake, this girl is really very wild, and I didn't know how to handle her. I thought she was good and she promised me she will be on her best behavior, but I can't tell you what I went through in these last 2 months. I'm sorry, and I had to let go of her. I've come back and I apologize. I will do whatever you ask me to say, just take me back. Now what happened? This guy had Jupiter in its Mool Trikona sign of Sagittarius in the 9th house, aspecting the Lagna, aspecting his 5th house of gains. This should have given him the best results. The challenging part was the Rahu and Mars completely overshadowing Venus in the 8th house. So in spite of having an exalted sun in the Lagna, Jupiter aspecting it, because of being in a tough dasha, he was going through Rahu and Venus. When Rahu and Venus was on, Rahu is almost 18 years. So this person completely got lost in his so-called love or attraction to this woman, and he eloped only to come back. So sometimes what happens is we spoil our Jupiter. Jupiter in the 9th house is also the Karaka of father. He didn't listen to his father, he didn't listen to the wise advice of his father, and he did the action of, in fact, getting into the wrong books of father. Father was very, very upset, and they took years together. And the other thing was, this guy, when he came to me, he would keep coming back to me every now and then, and he was going through some tough life. I asked him, you please make up to your father, do something so that your father is able to forgive him. So for the next 5 to 6 years after this incident happened, the boy kept trying to be in the good books of father, kept trying to pacify his father, completely did what his father said. And after 4 or 5 years, when the father said, okay, I forgive you, I have forgotten about the incident, only after that incident, only when father uttered the word, okay, I apologize, okay, I accept your apology, from then on, this boy, he started to do well in his business, started to do well in his life, and he started to keep good health. Till that, he was not keeping even his good health because of Rahu and Venus in the 8th house. He was going through some chronic ailment which he was not even able to fathom what it is. Doctors were not able to fathom what it is. After his father forgave him, his life turned around. So he had to, once he had spoiled his Jupiter, not listening to the Jupiter in his life, his father, because of which he spoiled his Jupiter. So for the next 4 or 5 years, he had to go through all these challenges and try to pacify his father, pacify Jupiter. So whichever house and whichever areas Jupiter or any planet is the Karaka of, if that particular relation is unhappy with you, you have mistreated that relationship, you have mistreated the areas of the life, the significance of the life, then the planet doesn't give you good results. Keep this in mind. Now another instance, a person with Aquarius ascendant native. This person had a debilitated Jupiter in the 12th house in Capricorn and with Venus. Venus usually is more strong in the 12th house, but not as strong as Jupiter, but Venus gets exalted in the 12th house. So when it gets into the 12th house, even if it's not a friendly sign, but if it's not such an inimical sign, then it still retains strength. Jupiter was debilitated. So here Venus was overshadowing his Jupiter. So here this man met a woman and he thought she is good for him, and this woman was almost 2 or 3 years older than him, and he came to me with their horoscopes, his and this woman, and he said, see, I've known this woman for 6-7 months now. I want to see whether the relationship between us will work out. She seems to be a good relationship for me, and I want to give it a try. I saw both their horoscopes and they were quite well matched, but I told him that this woman will not agree to be with you. So he said, why do you think this woman will not agree to be with me? I said, most of our planets are well placed, but the Jupiter is not well placed. Her Jupiter is in the 8th house. She has some tough placements in her horoscope. Jupiter is really in a tough placement. I said she will not agree to be with you. And the woman had a history of 3 failed relationships, which means in all the 3 relationships with her Jupiter, with the man in her life, she had gone through some tough challenges, tough issues, and she had not been able to retain those relations, because of which, and Jupiter in the 8th house means her Jupiter, her relations with Jupiter will go to give her lots of ups and downs in life. So I said, though you're giving her a chance to redeem herself, redeem her Jupiter, to bring around a turnaround in the life, she will not agree, because this placement of Jupiter will keep her there, will keep her in one bad relation after the other, one tough relationship after the other. She will keep remaining lost in the life, and that's how it's going to be for her. She will not agree. So this boy said, let me try. He comes back to me after about 2 to 3 months with another horoscope matching. So I asked him what happened to that girl. He said that girl didn't agree, she didn't accept, and so I had to let go of her because I wanted to marry, and I thought I was too late. So I want to just go ahead with my life. So here, in spite of having Jupiter in the 8th house, from where Jupiter was aspecting the 12th house, reducing the losses, aspecting the 2nd house, reducing the challenges in life, helping savings, and then aspecting the 4th house of domestic life, yet the girl was not able to keep her domestic life, she was not able to keep her savings, she was not able to keep her losses away because of a completely spoiled Jupiter. Another instance here, Aries Lagna again, Jupiter in the 4th house, exalted in Cancer, but under the aspect of 3 planets. Mars in the Lagna aspect Jupiter in the 4th house, where Cancer sign is Mars debilitation sign, mind you. Then Rahu and Saturn in the Shrapit dosha in the 2nd house. From the 2nd house, Saturn is aspecting Jupiter, and Ketu in the 8th house, and from the 8th house with his 9th aspect Jupiter. So in spite of having an exalted Jupiter in the 4th house, this person was not able to keep the domestic life well. This lady went through 2 relations breakups one after the other, because while she had very strong Jupiter in the 4th house of domestic life, yet because of 3 malefic aspects on Jupiter on her domestic life, she kept getting into bad relations one after the other. And because of constantly taking bad decisions, not listening to her elders, not listening to the people, important people who are wise people who are guiding her, she spoiled her Jupiter, and so she spoiled the domestic life, she spoiled the gains she should have got, because of which she was not able to even use her educational qualification. Though she was in a good career, she was doing very well, but there was no savings. She always had problems with her superiors, always had challenges with the bosses at work and with authority figures at work. So sometimes you may be in this misconception that you have a great Jupiter, you have good placement, but when you do get a chance to do some wise things, you take wrong decisions, you take unwise decisions because of some other planetary affliction, because of going through a tough dasha, because of maybe going through a Sarasati, or maybe through a bad transit, and then during that time when you take wrong decisions, you end up spoiling your Jupiter. Sometimes you end up spoiling the most strongest of planetary placements, and at least maybe you may redeem yourself in some other dasha, antardasha, but during this period, because you have taken such wrong decisions and completely spoiled the strength of the planet, during its own dasha, antardasha also the planet doesn't give you good results, and then you wonder, I have an exalted Jupiter, I have an exalted Sun, I have got such a strong moon, why is this happening to me? The thing what is happening to you is you have taken wrong decisions, you have completely spoiled the strength of the planet, and then the planet spoils your game. So what should one do if you have a planet which is really giving you tough results? A few things that you can do. Always donate in the line of the planet to improve the benefic side and to reduce the malefic side. So what should you do for Jupiter? Try and donate to orphanages. Orphanages are where young children live who don't have parents and they have been left alone. So Jupiter is the Karaka of children. So donate to an orphanage. Donate to an educational institute. Education is what Jupiter is a significator of. So try and pay the fees. If possible, take the mentorship of a student or take a scholarship of some educational university or school, or pay for the fees of at least for 1 year, or if possible sponsor a child till his 10th standard. The other thing is, stop chasing materialism in your life. For example, girls always wanting a person with very good looks, tall, well built, handsome, has good stature in society, is very respected, very rich. So what happens when you chase materialism? You are chasing a pseudo Jupiter, you are not chasing a right Jupiter. A right Jupiter is a wise person who can stand by you, who can counsel you, who can lead you, who can guide you, who can always hold your hand and take you in the right path, so that this Jupiter will not only guide you in the right path, but will also bring the prosperity, the happiness. Jupiter is a planet of expansion, and many times both women and men, especially women, because Jupiter is such an important planet for women. I have seen women doing a lot of wrong in their lives concerning their relationship and completely spoiling their Jupiter, chasing the pseudo Jupiter than the right Jupiter for them. Then visit spiritual places, seek knowledge, learn, be more spiritual, read the religious scriptures, read all those which will bring a more positivity in your life, where you would want to give more, and be large hearted. Jupiter is also the Karaka of the heart, which means the more large hearted you are, the more giving you are, the more wise you are, you will also be able to improve the strength of Jupiter. And then be grateful, be humble. I have seen people who sometimes put themselves on a pedestal. I helped that person, I gave that person so much money, I did this good thing to my husband, I did this to my father, look what happened to me, look how did my husband treat me, look how did my boss treat me, look how did my brother treat me. All challenges they attribute, and then they spoil the Jupiter because they have been ungrateful and they have been very arrogant. Jupiter is a planet of wisdom. A wise person will never be arrogant. If you are wise, if you are humble, and if you are following a moral, ethical life rather than chase materialistic desires, and you're willing to hold the hand of either a spiritual person or a guru or a father or elder brother, some spirituality or some wise person, some wise guidance to you, and having a large heart, helping others, seeking knowledge, being more grateful, being more spiritual, then if you do all that, then even in the worst of situations, you may be able to add strength to Jupiter over a period of time, slowly, one notch by the other, and then over a period of time you will find, if you are doing all that, then even in the worst circumstances, Jupiter starts giving you better results, because you have won over your Jupiter by how you have treated Jupiter, and you have treated Jupiter like situations in your life. And the last and one of the best remedies, be sweet. Talk sweetly to people and eat sweets. If you have diabetes or challenges, then don't eat sweets, then donate sweets to others. So friends, if you do all of this, you handle your Jupiter well, you handle the situations in life better, you're more spiritual, you're more grateful, you're more sweet, you seek wise counsel, you seek more wise people, and you surround yourself with the goodness, large-heartedness and spirituality and gratefulness, then automatically the zodiac will give you good results, will bring more Jupiter in your life through people, through situations, through wisdom, through spirituality, and through prosperity and through gains. So friends, just check into your horoscope. Are you spoiling your Jupiter, because of which Jupiter is spoiling your game? If that is the case, then please understand your Jupiter placements and do all the right things which I have suggested to you to handle Jupiter well, to increase the strength of Jupiter, so that Jupiter once more turns around to become the most beneficial and most prosperous planet that it is supposed to be. So friend, like this video, share this video, and if you're looking for a personal consultation from me, please reach out to me at the links given below. Until some other time with some other video, this is your friend, astrologer and guide Irfan, signing off.